If anyone at Activision or Microsoft is watching this video, please port Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel to PC. There's a non-0% chance that the right person watches this video and hears that, so I had to say it. Okay, enjoy the video. Crash Team Racing is my favorite kart racer, bar none. Sorry, Garfield Kart. Most of my love for this game comes from the mechanics, but I'd be lying if I said the world didn't play a part in that love too. Something about the art style of this game mixed with the PS1 aesthetic, it's so charming. So today, we'll take a look at some of my favorite tracks, as well as the one aspect of this game that stuck with everyone back in the day. This is Crash Team Racing, and welcome to Video Game World Tours. Crash Cove is the first track in the game, and it's a cute one. It kinda captures similar vibes as the first stage from the first game, that being a tropical island. The sand, palm trees, oh man, the water? I am in love with this water effect. Back around this generation, it seemed like every game had its own unique take on what water should look like. Nowadays, most watering games look samey, but this is stylized to hell and back. I love the slight hint of purple they added. I'm a sucker for a good sunset in a game, and the pinkish purple always makes a skybox look beautiful to me. Surprisingly, there is one kinda out of the way spot I wanted to show off. There's a shortcut you can take pretty soon after starting the race. It involves you hitting a pretty nasty jump onto this raised ledge and riding off the other side. But if you stop on top of it, you'll notice that there's a bridge reaching over to this pirate ship. Well, that's cute. There's a skull and crossbones with Cortex's face on it. I mean, this is a ship alright. You definitely won't be coming up here during a normal race, but I like that they added this as a spot. It shows that Naughty Dog was willing to have a bit of fun with the environments and let you go places that don't make a whole lot of sense. Why not let you on this boat? If you want to throw the race, that's on you. Now, I haven't covered any kart racers on the channel yet, and I'll definitely get to Mario Kart one day, I promise. But I had an interesting thought while exploring this stage here. You spend a lot of time in these stages in kart racers. You lap them 3 times per race, and you'll no doubt play them a handful of times in time trials. You become really familiar with tracks in these types of games, but only from one perspective. Like when going for a time trial, you really lock in, taking the same path over and over, trying to perfect your route just a tiny bit more each lap. That's what a racing game is. But if you were to just stop and look around, you'll get a brand new perspective on each stage. For example, here, have you ever looked at that side of the track from this bridge? If you're just racing by, you won't even catch a glimpse of it, but it's kinda interesting to see it from here. It made me realize that I don't think I ever even processed that there was a bridge right there. If I were to describe this map from memory, I would have told you that these two landmasses were connected naturally. I wouldn't have mentioned the bridge at all. That goes to show how tunnel visioned you get playing a racing game, or I do at least. I'm so focused on beating everyone or getting a super good time, I don't pay any attention to the environment. But that's why we're here, to give the environmental artists the appreciation they deserve. Ruse Tubes is the next stage we're going to look at. This doesn't really have much in terms of secret hidey spots, but it more than makes up for it in terms of vibes. First of all, there's this flickering in the tunnel right after the starting line. There's no lights on the ceiling, so I'm assuming it's the ambient light from the surface being filtered through the water in the glass tube. I love a bluish-gray underwater area, so this does a lot for me personally. And then there's all the space outside of the tube. You're completely separated from the larger ocean throughout this race, unfortunately. I would have loved to get a better look at the oceanic details without having to peer over the border of the racetrack. I don't know my underwater plant life, so I can't really tell you what this is, but it feels exaggerated for scale. Like, look at how small Crash is compared to it. And the coral? Yeah, this is all larger than life. There's also a couple of man-made pillars. Animal-made pillars? Wait, do humans exist in the Crash universe? I guess there's Cortex's scientists, but are they it? Are they even human? Whatever, I'm asking the wrong questions here. What are these pillars for? Who built them? How long have they been sitting at the bottom of the ocean? These are the questions we need answers to. We'll never get them, but it's fun to think about it anyway. Another bit of interconnectedness I always forget about in this stage. That's the track you ride down just a bit later, and it goes under the hill right here. I'm always so focused on going straight that I never think to look to the side. Or when I reach that part a couple seconds later, I'm too busy getting some sick air to notice it from here either. Not mind-blowing or anything, just a detail that I'd probably leave out of this track in my mental recreation of it. And right as you reach the end of the track, we have one final interesting detail. Something I actually never forget is this giant rib cage. Even if I take the shortcut through the dirt, this giant skeleton always sticks out to me. But wait a second. This is too big, right? Like, maybe my perspective is off, but this feels too big to be a normal dinosaur, doesn't it? This is a mega creature, and it's curved too. Maybe these are the remains of a very large snake? A mega boa, even? Perchance. Dingo Canyon doesn't really have a lot of animal-made details to observe, but the natural details are interesting enough in their own right. First of all, the thing that sticks out to me are the rock formations. They're funky. So much character in these. Look at those out in the distance. Groovy. Also gotta point out the massive cow skulls. Even taking into account some of the bigger characters in the game, these are comically big. Like, this is bigger than all of Tiny Tiger. Down this slope, there's a few crevices carved out of the wall. This one is particularly interesting to me. It just feels so deliberate. Like, why is this here? And there's a hint of blue lighting on the wall? What's that about? You could argue that it's the water nearby, but I don't think the angle of the reflections on that really work. Peculiar. This whole section of the map is kinda weird now that I think about it. There's a road cutting through this spot, but part of it is covered in ankle-deep or so water. Parts of the road, though, are raised up above it. Why is that? It looks like the road is swelling. And why is there water here in the first place? I wouldn't really expect to see water in a desert/canyon stage. Interesting choice. Heading up the slope after all that, I noticed a big old boulder teetering precariously over an edge. That's nerve-wracking. Even though I know this is a video game without source engine-esque physics, I still have a little part of me that tells me to avoid taking the path closest to it. Though there's another just after the fork in the road that you can't avoid. Man, this canyon is dangerous. Especially considering you end the stage with a jump over a flowing waterfall. Huh, I guess there is a good bit of water in this place. Fair enough. I do think it's funny that a jump like this was deliberately put into this racetrack. Racing in this game is mostly portrayed as an enjoyable thing everyone does, like it's a sport. But if you don't make this jump somehow, you're falling into the water and drowning. Sure, Aku Aku will save you, but what if you fall in while he's currently saving someone else? Are you just dead? Yes. The answer is yes. I want to take a brief stop at a couple of the battle stages. These were built for multiplayer, and they're almost all just enclosed boxes. No hidden paths or anything. Rampage Ruins does have a neat spot though. It takes place deep in the jungle. You can see the trees poking out from just beyond the level boundary. I could easily imagine this being close to Papu Papu's pyramid. The spot I want to show off is in here. There's this basement layer to the platform you start on. And what stands out to me is the color. It has this purple color scheme, red almost, and it's weirdly unmotivated. There's no torches or anything to hint as to why it would look like this. Plus, the room itself is bizarre. It's so long, stretching in both directions. There's a box with a power-up at this end, but nothing on this one. Why is it so lonely over here? This end of the hallway is today's pretzel-certified VGWT spot. The other battle stage I wanted to look at is Nitro Court. And this stage doesn't even have a specific spot I wanted to point out. I just kinda dig the vibes. The segmented play space, the green grass being on top of this castle, and the night sky above you. It's peaceful. Alright, back to the normal stages. Dragon Mines is our next stop. The stage always felt alive to me, at least relative to the others in the game. The moving machinery here, and the minecarts zooming by. This place is bustling. And you're just allowed to race in here. Isn't that fun? These red lights are ominous. I feel like I'm in a nightmare right now. Like I opened my bedroom door, and outside is just this mineshaft drenched in crimson. I just wanted to go to the fridge for some water, and now I'm stuck in this underground mineshaft. Great. Freddy Krueger is just around the corner, I bet. Huh. Guess not. This is a pleasant room. A much appreciated change of pace from the bad dream just next door. Green is such an interesting choice for the lighting. Blue would make sense. Water is blue, so yeah, that'd be on the walls. You can even see a good amount of it on the western side of the room. But the eastern side is bathed in green. I kinda love that about games from this period. While developers were busy working on how to light an environment in an interesting way, they didn't stop to elaborate on where that lighting is coming from. I looked at the remake of this game from 2019 and, sure enough, that green accent to this room is gone. It's blue, just like everything else. I'm sure when Beanox was putting that game together, some level designer reached this room and thought about it as well. Because you have to think about that in modern games. That's just the expectation, that everything makes sense in-world. If the walls of the room are lit up green, you have to have something emanating that green light. In the end, they decided to just remove that aspect of the room here. Which is kinda sad, because that's the defining feature of this part of the track. This is the green room. So sad it wasn't included. Here we are, the minecart track. You can't really stop to enjoy the scenery on here because you'll constantly be run over. This loop is the worst. I spent so long trying to perfect this curve in the remake to beat the time trials. I think I went insane. I'm pretty sure this is where I learned the break hopping technique that allows you to turn around quickly. This spot instills anxiety in me. I don't like it here. Just past that is the starting line. Are there any interesting details to notice if you go through this track in reverse? Nah, not really. Wait a second. Oh, wow, that's the other side of the track, just behind the starting line. I don't know why that's always so mind-blowing to me. I guess I genuinely just don't pay attention to the environment in racing games. Too busy being in last place to notice where the track loops around on itself. That's all we got here, mostly boring stage. Except for the green room though, love that spot. Cortex Castle is where we're visiting next. I can always appreciate a bad guy's castle as a racing track. They're always good in Mario Kart, and it's good here. It's interesting to see how the big bad decorates a space they call their own. First off, it's above a seemingly bottomless pit. That's a good bad guy base location. If Crash just happens to fall down, then Cortex don't have to worry about him no more. He could slip in the rain and it'd be an accident. Only if Aku Aku weren't here. Past a little jump and a small indoor area is a courtyard. There's a fork in the road. You can choose to go either way. It's not like it matters much, both lead to the same path forward. Though which do you choose? I feel like I always want to take the left path for some reason, even though the right path has better curves for maintaining drifts. Though maybe it's just that I like the illusion of always going forward, so I keep going straight once I hit this angle. I like this spot too. The hedge is cute. I'm glad Cortex appreciates some greenery. Not much to say for a bit here. I really like the track as it goes along the outside of the castle. For some reason, it really feels like a Spyro stage at this part. I think the skybox helps with that. But I could also imagine this being one of those paths where you're boosted and start running really fast. I could totally see myself doing that in one of those games in a place like this. Here we go. Here's the wild card. The teal lighting contrasts so much with all the lighting we've seen up until this point. It stands out and kinda lets you know that this track is coming to an end soon. And I do love that Cortex got some stained glass with his face on it. Eloquently narcissistic in my eyes. And with that, we're at the final stage of the video. Though, could you even call this a stage? This is what put the game on the map for me, as well as likely a fair amount of you too. I'm of course talking about the hub world. This game has a single-player adventure mode, and you get to move around this hub world, physically driving to teleporters that take you to races on each of the game's tracks. That felt like such a novel concept back in the day. And while I will admit that Diddy Kong Racing did have one of these too, this game always stuck out to me for whatever reason. I guess it's because I played this at a cousin's house when I was a kid. I don't quite remember what console I had at the time, but I remember going over to his house and thinking his PlayStation was the coolest shit ever. It felt so grown up. Now that I think about it, another cousin had this game too. I had cousins on different sides of the family that both had PlayStations as well as Crash Team Racing. They were both older than me, so I saw this as the grown-up version of Mario Kart. It wasn't just a menu to select the tracks you wanted to play. You got to move around this physical space and select it that way, like Mario 64. It was magical. I guess I still have some of that nostalgia. These hub worlds aren't mind-blowing or anything. They don't have any crazy secret spots. Though it does have some merit on its own, nostalgia aside. Not many kart racing games today even do this. Like the only other kart racer I can name with a hub world is Diddy Kong Racing. Drop the name of a kart racer with one in the comments if you got any. I was most familiar with the starting zone, because I'd always start a new game and not get much further than this before I had to head home. An interesting detail I noticed is at the teleporter to Rue's Tubes. On the minimap here, you can see that the platform goes out a bit into the water, and then it's connected to a rectangle at the teleporter, like there's a little bit of extra space on both sides of it. But when you look at the teleporter itself, the dock is just a straight line going out. There's no extra space on either side of the teleporter. I guess maybe that's a change they made late into development, but just didn't update the map? That's probably it. The next zone isn't really a full one, it's just a transitionary one that houses some of the bonus tracks you can complete, as well as the Grand Prix races. I also like the winner's podium tucked away in this zone. All of the zones have them, but I like this one the most. It's cute. And it's cool that these are actual spots you can visit and drive through, alongside seeing them after winning a race. I like the foresty vibes of the Lost Ruins, as well as the snowy mountaintops of Glacier Peak. There's even a teleporter inside a cute little igloo. And the final one is devious. Citadel City. I talked about this trope in my Spyro video, but I love how this game starts you off with such beautiful stages engulfed in nature, only to have it end with stages blazing with the flames of industry. It gives the game stakes and shows you what you're fighting for, specifically in this game, to avoid turning the whole planet into a parking lot. Citadel City captures that industrialized vibe of these last few stages well. But my mind will always be back at Insanity Beach. Just sitting here, gazing out at the sunset without a race timer to pressure me, basking in nature's beauty. It's lovely. Thanks, Naughty Dog, for throwing out this curveball of a game. And thank you for watching.